Welcome. Let's should we close the door? What do you guys think? Okay. So this is the class on the giants, right? The sons of Elohim and the giants. That's what we're talking about. So those are ideas that we have, and then eventually we'll get more relevant to what it means to us now. But we have to have the rock, that we can just put our feet and just understand things. So Torah says, right, by Moses, that before the flood, there used to be these beings called the sons of God, the sons of Elohim, and that they, got close. They had sexual intercourse with the women of men, and then they were born these other hybrids, right, called the nephilims, the giants. We're not pretty sure how to say how a nephilim looks because the Torah doesn't show us like how a nephilim will look, but we know how their offsprings will look, and they were called giants. Right? Not only the Torah says that these beings lived here before the flood, but they also appear after the flood. We know that the flood was done to wipe out something pretty big. And we're going to get into Sumerian texts, Babylonian texts, and even Mayan texts about the floods and what was that about. But what we know by Noah, story in chapter 6 of Genesis is that they wanted to wipe out everything, right? Any flesh needed to go. That included animals. That included anything that lived, just wipe them out, which is kind of strange, right? Because this is not what we see in Torah when it comes to God. God is always, evolving to create and to procreate and to produce. But seldom we see these shutdowns. Um, and we are talking in Torah right now in a level, we call it Peshat. So we bring as logical as possible. So we're not using Kabbalah and ideas higher. We're just using the text as our history text, right? Like Christopher Columbus. I'm not thinking of Christopher Columbus as the Messiah or anything. I just Christopher Columbus wanted to come to America, and this is what happened. Does it make sense? That's what we're doing in the text now. So it's good to do that because that's going to give you the base to elevate it to other worlds of it. Okay, so what else do we know? So we have some people or some terms that we need to know. The sons of Elohim, right? We are going to find out today that they are angels. That's what we're going to talk about today. Sons of Elohim as angels. Giants are hybrids, right? And they're very, very violent, as we're going to see. So they're not only giants or statue, because somebody asked me this morning, oh, so you think that the NBA have a lot of Nephilim? I said, no, well, they're tall men, they're big men. But giants came with the idea that they were really violent. Really, they enjoy blood, and to a point that they were eating humans. That's the type of giants I'm talking about, not just somebody with big stature, even though I'm going to show. The idea of this class, though, is okay, so they existed, but maybe that happened. What about now? Right? There is like agenda or some kind of agenda or something. Or maybe we're just freaking out, or maybe there is something. And so that's why this class I wanted to do it because I wanted just to think a little bit outside the norm, and just see things more. So today we're going to talk about these angels and what the Torah says about angels. So what do you know about angels in your idea? Malakim, which means what? Executor. the ones who act upon. Different, yeah. Executing actions, killing, doing, missing, doing things. And they seem not to have their own little mind going. Doesn't seem sometimes that they are connected to something. They like there's some rogue by themselves. Rogue, yeah. They just I don't know. We'll talk about it. I want to read it, but what else do you know about angels? So they could be nice, right? Yeah, they're nice. Some of them, I guess. When I see pictures of them, because we see pictures, that's why we interpret them. Their faces are not of a girl, of a guy. They're like you don't know where they are until their name, right? What else? That's something that we all been taught, right? They don't have free choice, but as we're gonna talk about here, seems that they do have some kind of choice because at least one third of them decided not to do anything. One third decided to fight against the other ones. There's a war in heaven. Yeah, the war in heaven. Actually, on earth there's a lot of peace compared to the war in heaven. So there was a God, there was a war of gods. The angel of Yahweh says he was fighting with Ammon and Ra and all of them to their side. It's in the text. This is not midrash. This is Torah text. So do you take it just like it is, or you think it's just a symbol? We can take it like a symbol, right? Okay, you take it like a shadow or a metaphor or a parable. You can. It has an idea there, right? That there's some kind of war. So this is the idea here. All right. Did you guys see the movie The Prophecy? You have seen it? Oh, it's an also. What is the name of the guy? Christopher Walken, right? Yeah. You guys are too young. I'm sorry. Yeah, just you and I. Yes, yeah. This is the wisdom from the past. But try to watch it. Probably super free right now because it's so old. It's called The Prophecy. Okay? All right. Let's read. So that's it. That's all you know about angels. You don't know Jack. They have wings, half naked. Yeah, they'll go in here. Oh, yes, those are cherubs. Yes, yes. There's a different type of angel, but yes, there is. There's Torah talks about angels of fire, kind of like dragons, fury, fury beings, close to the throne. Yeah. Guardian angels, no such thing in Torah. They're called the watchers. They're not guarding you, they're watching you. The difference. Yes. There's somebody watching you. But they're not very nice though. And this is a spiritual world, right? This is the thing that some people get involved and sometimes get crazy by it, but this is another story in the story. Something's going on. There's a war going on. Like I tell you, the Apostle Paul says because our fight is not against blood of flesh, flesh and blood, but by thrones, by powers, right? Yeah, the key is that it's like the universe is trying to harmonize. And these powers are trying to figure it out, just like electrons and protons, and right? They're trying to balance themselves to create matter. Maybe it's that. Okay, I thought somebody was gonna say babies, chubby babies. That's what angels do in the portraits, right? Why is that? That's not an angel. That's a demon called some Cupido, no? Cupid. That's a demon. Oh, that's the one we suffer a lot. Yes. No, true. Colorized, yes. What do you think is that? But they, true, but yes, Sumerians believe, right, that most of those Anunnakis who came, their skin were white, they were blue eyes. It's a strong thing. It's a strong, and we have genes. What I'm gonna teach you is that our bloodlines are kind of like mixed, and there's powers in every race. Hispanics have a power. White people have power. Black people have power. We all have powers, but together we make the whole thing. It's so hard though, right? Because we fight with each other so much. It's a cultural thing. Okay, let's do this. Let's start with Genesis chapter 6. So we're gonna read it. Genesis chapter 6. We're gonna read verse 5, verse 6, and verse 11. Okay? So we're gonna see for the first time angels, how they portray in the Bible in Genesis 6. Uh-huh. That's it. This is what's happening, right? Chaos was happening. Okay. Yeah, they're gonna, yeah, they're here. At least in chapter 6, this is before the flood. So they were there, right? So the word for wickedness is the word in Hebrew, sima. Sigma with a Z. Zigma, which is defined, meditated weaknesses, plotted, planned, design, wicked, lure or purpose, especially sins of unchastity, so sexual. That's the word the Hebrew uses. What's happening there. So I'm going to do it again. So when it says that the world was corrupted, right? There was wickedness in the earth. That's the word sima in Hebrew, which is the one that I want to use more, which is defined as meditated wickedness, plotted. So they were trying to do something. This violence or whatever is happening, even though it looked chaotic, it was planned by somebody or with a purpose. That's it. Because if it was just wickedness, we should be flooded too. We should be also, we're crazy as a society. We don't do things good, but we're not getting flooded. So there was something planned. That's premeditated. Premeditated, yeah. Yeah, but it defines a meditated weakness. So that means that you thought about it, you process it, and then you wanted to do it. Yeah, that's what he uses here. Any question about that? That's important. It's important in our story. Okay, let's continue. We're going to read now Genesis 18:1-8. So this is after the flood, but we're going to see for the first time angels on earth, at least by the Torah. Genesis 18:1-8. Let's listen.
and said, "My Lord, if now I have found favor in your sight, please don't go away from your servant. Now let a little water be fetched, wash your feet, and rest yourselves under the tree. I will give you a morsel of bread so you can refresh your heart. After that you may go your way, now that you have come to your servant." They said, "Very well, do as you have said." Abraham hurried into the tent to Sarah and said, "Quickly prepare 3 seahs of fine meal, knead it, and make cakes." Abraham ran to the herd and fetched a tender and good calf, and gave it to the servant. He hurried to dress it. He took butter, milk, and the calf, which he had dressed, and set it before them. He stood by them and ate under the tree, and they ate.
And they ate. So these guys, Torah says that they were angels, but they ate.
Who bowed to them? No way.
Who bowed to
You said that somebody bowed to them.
Abraham?
Abraham. Oh, Abraham bowed to them. Okay, good.
So Abraham was, he saw them in the desert. It was coming towards him. And they say to him, we were sent just to tell you that Sodom and Gomorrah is going to get destroyed. And then one of the angels stays with him, and the other two, leaves to Sodom and Gomorrah. But before we get into that, just the idea that an angel can eat, it looks like a human. You wonder how many, excuse- I wonder how many we have among us. Excuse me, among us. What do you think? Because angels doesn't look like we thought, with wings and
Two faces, front and back.
yeah.
But then
All
also,
white.
but also, which was it was one of the visions of the prophets. Didn't they describe like angels looking
Oh, yeah. And we're gonna talk about those, but all I'm saying is the angels can look like humans. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Oh yeah, we're gonna see a variety of beings, but at least some beings can come and eat with you and talk to you and look like human as you.
Break bread.
Let's look at more about that. We're gonna go now. Uh, let's see. Genesis 19, 1 to 5.
Alright, this is a tough question. Do they know they're angels? Do they know you're saying that they look like humans?
Can I say something?
Uh-huh. Yes.
Okay, so Genesis 18, when Abraham saw the three angels, in Hebrew, that's the first time that the word anashim, which means, well, they translate it as angels, but it's like a heavenly being
Uh-huh.
with a human appearance or shape. So it is kind of like
Yes.
not clear in the translation, but the word is anashim.
Yeah.
And it's the first time that appears.
Yeah, what it means is like a humanoid, what I call a humanoid. That's what I call them, which is that word. Yeah, so, but the question is, do they know? Right? I would say, this is what I would say, right? That is they know, but their offsprings might not know. The violent ones. How violent is the world now?
Superbly. Extreme.
It's very violent. Right? We go into a more, it was a time that was violent, 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 and then kind of like recede, right? Sometimes they were better, and then now we're picking up again, right? I mean, you're seeing our cities. When do you hear? In my time in the 1980s here, 90s, there was not even two homicide LA County. You didn't, I mean, somebody got killed. You really heard in the news, like it was a big deal. Now it's like they're killing each other, like sounded like our countries, right? And it could be many reasons, but there's a lot of violence going on. So I don't know. They should know if they came, yes. But let's see. Let's see what happens because there's some other things that we can see here. Yeah. So let's do Genesis 19, 1 to 5.
The two angels came to Sodom at evening. Lot sat in the gate of Sodom. Lot saw them and rose up to meet them. He bowed himself with his face to the earth, and he said, "See now, my lords, please turn aside in your servant's house. Stay all night, wash your feet, and you can rise up early and go on your way." They said, "No, but we will stay in the street all night." He urged them greatly, and they came in with him and entered into his house. He made them a feast and baked unleavened bread, and they ate. But before they lay down, the men of the city, the men of Sodom, surrounded the house, both young and old, all the people from every quarter. They called to Lot and said, "Where are the men who came in to you this night? Bring them out to us, that we may have sex with them."
So not only they look like men, but they're very attractive men. I'm just giving you what the statements are. You need to start figuring out puzzles here, but this is what it says, right? So by Torah standards, an angel can look like a man. That's just bottom line.
I found it interesting that, this may be a little off topic, that Lot made them unleavened bread. And this was way before.
Do you know why? Do you know what unleavened bread means?
What was that again?
Unleavened bread.
Unleavened?
Unleavened.
Unleavened?
Like not leaven, not yeast.
Oh, okay. Oh.
No yeast in the bread.
In Passover, the idea is that you used to sin.
Yes.
Is that why?
Almost. You got it, but you're not saying it. What happens on Passover?
So they have to leave in a hurry, right? So they didn't have time to make it.
But what happens in Passover? They lived after Passover, which is unleavened bread.
What do we do?
What happened? The angel of death. What do you think was going to happen in Sodom and Gomorrah?
Yeah,
So what was he celebrating?
like that.
Passover. Even without Moses. That's not crazy. That feast has been there before Moses. People think that Moses just writing, but
He did say he made them a feast. He really used the word feast.
he was celebrating the 7 days of Passover. But it was going to be a destruction. So just when you see unleavened bread, that's why you need to read Yeshua with the fish in the bread. In one says there was unleavened bread, so we know that they were in Passover. Interesting, huh?
Right, but the Torah describes what they call it, Mikra Kodesh, which is a holy, like a meat type of, before the unleavened bread, because the unleavened bread is for 7 days, right? But before that, you gotta do which is a Pesach.
Yeah, the Passover. Yes,
So it's 8 days.
yes, because Passover is not you start eating unleavened bread, but it's the 7 days of it. Passover is the lamb, but you start your 7 days. Yeah. Okay. So let's continue reading to see because this is what these angels are. Let's do Psalm 148:5.
All right. Let them praise Yahweh's name, for he commanded and they were created.
So we know that they are from another creation. They were created also. So these beings are created just like us, but it seems in another time. They're like from an old creation. Seems like it. All right, let's do Psalm 104 4.
He made his messengers winds, his servants flames of fire.
Okay,
And then they substitute the word messengers for angels. Like that's like the little.
you don't know there. So the Psalm tells us, right? The angels have spirits. Ruhot says. What is ruhot means? Spirit. What is? If I tell you you have a spirit, what am I saying? Exactly. So they are not robots. They're not all the same. They all have personalities. That's gonna be important, right? Very good. So now let's look at some groups of personalities. Let's go to Job 38:7.
When the morning stars sang together, all the sons of Yahweh shouted for joy. Oh wait, sorry, let me read that again. When the morning stars sang together, and all the sons of God shouted for joy. Kind of picks up in the middle of like a sentence.
Uh-huh. So when the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God shouted for joy. This chapter 38 of Job, is about the zodiac, is the stars. So these angels are in groups of 12. And that's why when you talk about your zodiac sign, is the spirit of those powers who influence you, of that family. Because they were there at the beginning of creation, the constellations were there already. They call Masarots. So we call them the zodiac. Okay?
And then the term sons of God also comes out.
In the term sons of God comes out, which we know they are angels now. Yeah, that we already can know. All right, let's see something else. Let's go to the book of Daniel, chapter 9, 21 to 22. Huh? Yeah, there's gonna be names now on these guys.
Daniel 9:21-22. Yes, while I was speaking in prayer, the man Gabriel, whom I had seen in the vision at the beginning, being caused to fly swiftly, touched me about the time of the evening offering. He instructed me and talked with me and said, Daniel, I have now come to give you wisdom and understanding.
No, they can give power.
They give powers, they have names, so they're individuals, right? They can work as a group. They seem to be part of groups, like families, but they also have their own names and their own agendas.
And they're from all from a different time.
Yes. So let's look at another one. So we saw what name came out there? Gabriel, right? Let's go to another one. Let's go to Daniel 10, 4 to 6, and then 11 to 13.
In the 24th day of the first month, as I was by the side of the great river, which is Hiddekel, I lifted up my eyes and looked, and behold, a man clothed in linen, whose thighs were adorned with pure gold of Uphaz,
Yeah, so you have um, 4 to 6 and 11 to 13.
Okay. So his thighs were adorned with the pure gold of Uphaz. His body also was like the beryl, and his face as the appearance of lightning, and his eyes as flaming torches, and his arms and feet like burnished brass, and the voice of his words like the voice of a multitude. And then 12 and 13. Then he said to me, don't be afraid, Daniel, for from the first day that you set your heart to understand and to humble yourself before Yahweh, your words were heard, and I have come for your word's sake. But the prince of the kingdom of Persia withstood me 21 days. But behold, Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me, and I
Yeah.
remained there with the kings of Persia.
So now Michael comes. So now we know, right, his names. And then, of course, in other books outside the canon, we know names of them, like Raphael, Uriel, other angels, Samael, Azazel, other ancient angels. Okay, there's older ones. Seems like the Zohar says that there were 7 universes before ours, and they were destroyed. But these guys jumped from dimension to dimension, says the Zohar. And then they're here, but they're not from our creation. And some of them are from our creation, from our universe.
Rabbi, we heard and saw that they jumped when they were rotating our Earth at a specific time when the star came out.
Yeah.
That's when it closes, and that's when they jumped. Is that any truth, or because before they were way too far another faraway universe?
So the idea, this is
The rotate.
yes. So we're looking at the Torah in their story. Torah is not very good at stories because it wasn't meant to give you stories. It gives you to give you codes because Torah is to lift your soul to you can handle life, right? But in those codes is built to stories from the ancients. So if you want to know the story completely, we have to go to the Sumerians. And the Sumerians, their stories are stories. They have a beginning and have an end. They develop it. Torah doesn't give you that. Torah says and then Adam and Eve were kicked out of the garden. And you're like, and what happened next? Who cares? Now you go to another thing. You're like, what? Because it's not a story. It's just a code, right? So in the Sumerians, the idea is that these beings called the falling ones live in a death star, not like a Star Wars, but a death, like really like a Death Star, right? And so they try to revive it. And the reason that they can do it is because the sun is too, it just,
Far away, or does not shine.
well, they don't have filters, like an ozone zone, they don't have it. And so they want to have it. And they know that the only way to do it is through a metal called gold. The gold, right, this is what the tablet says. They're supposed to make it like a powder. Like the movie right now, HBO Max, what is it called? Dune? The spices. Like what they call spices? Is it the movie?
Not yet.
Have you read the book?
I gotta watch it.
That's an old book, right? Actually, it's before Star Wars, the book. A lot of the Star Wars stuff comes from there. Yeah. There's a Messiah in the movie. But there's a planet that gives spices. And these spices, the natives uses to transport themselves in the mind and connect to the light. But everybody else's uses the spices to do time travel. And that's it. The story is about that. So the same thing here. The idea is the same way. Is the Sumerians say that these falling ones go to planet to get gold, so they can keep their planet alive. And they had destroyed planets a planet that was between Mars and Jupiter. They destroy it, and that's why we only have the asteroid belt. And the Mars, they went there and they took everything and left it done. And so they jumped to Earth. And that's how the story starts. Chapter 6 of Genesis. And they came. And they came to get gold. But before they could get the gold, because their planet is called Nibiru, which means the one who crosses. So here's the sun, and here's our Earth going this way, right? This thing goes way out there, and then it makes this elliptic like this, and it goes like an egg, but a humongous one. So when it came back, every 3,600 years. So as it moves, the planet Earth, this planet or star hits it, and it breaks off the Earth. The Earth is called Timat in the Sumerian text. And when it hit it, a big chunk came out of the Earth. And that's what created the abyss that we know. Right? The big abyss that we have on the oceans. Because we only know 5% of our oceans. 5%. We know more about what happens on planet Mars than we know about what's inside our oceans. I don't know. We don't want to go there. So the big chunk became Kingo. That's the name in Sumerian text, which is our satellite, the moon. And now we know that our moon came from a piece of ours. That the moon is not a separate thing; it's a piece of Earth. Now we know, as astronomers know that now. Look at it. Not even 10 years ago. But the text said that's what happened. This other planet came in, kind of destroyed it. In the next, but that's the years, 3,600 years, they come back and they say there's gold on the planet. So 200 of them comes down. Exactly what the book of Enoch says. 200 of them came down. As they came down, they went to the Persian Sea under the ocean to excavate for gold. But it was too hard for them. That's what the tablet says. It's too hard. So they decided to go to Africa. And they started mining. But the 200 of them says, this is too hard. Somebody help us here? And then there was these black hair heads on earth. That's what they say. And they tried to use them to help them, but they were too dumb. That's what he says. So they needed to do something. So they decided to mix with their own and to make a hybrid. And so there was the Anunnakis and these primitive humans, I guess, or humanoids, and they did this mixing, and it came humans. And the gods or the Anunnaki says, we are making our own image. And they took all those people and put them to work on the mines to get the gold. But then the other 200, right, who saw these new humans, they look like them, they like the girls. And the 200 mixed with the girls. They had sex with them. It's exactly the story of Genesis 6 in a way. Right? The same kind of idea. And so now they're having some issues there. Right? And so Anu, which is the powerful king of the Anunnakis, says, what are you guys doing? We're supposed to be just taking gold, not doing all this craziness. Get out. Come back. So they'll come back, and they're going to melt the poles so that the earth can get flooded and kill what they have created, this human race. Huh? And flooded them. And just like the Mabul, just like the flood. But there's fights with the gods. what do they call it, gods? The Anunnakis, they have a fight because Anu has two sons. One is from the servant, and one is for his wife. Sounds familiar? Whose story is that? Abraham. All right. So then Abraham, Anu says, has two sons. One is called Enki, and the other one is called Ilel. Enki is like the tricker, like kind of like the god of the Vikings, the brother of Thor. What's his name? Loki. Just like Loki, just like that. Yeah, I mean the same character. I guess from there they took it, right? And so, because he's against his brother Ilel, who's very arrogant, just like Thor. So he comes down and tells Gilgamesh, which is like our Noah to us, and says to him, they're going to flood everything. 13:12.
Therefore, Yeshua also, that he might sanctify the people.
Hebrews? Is that Hebrews?
Yeah, Hebrews 13.
13:2.
13.
Yeah, my fault.
13:2. Don't forget to show hospitality to strangers, for in doing so, some have entertained angels without knowing.
There you go, Melanie. So the angels know, but you don't know. He says, you might have, seen or be in your house an angel.
But any kind of angel, you don't know.
He seems to be like revering them though, in that sentence, right? Like, oh, that angel, it's a good thing actually.
Well, in this case, it's a good thing. Yes. All right. All right, guys. See you later.
We want more.
See you next week. All right.
José le mató.